Boy, like the house on fire, boy.
Yeah, we the house is on fire.
God. Oh my God.
This one was pretty bad. Let's check it out. This video is brought to you by Columbia Southern University. Columbia Southern University has been around for over 25 years, offering flexible, affordable, higher education. Now, many of you watching this are going to be interested in their programs like fire science, EMS administration, and things related to public safety, but they offer a variety of other programs as well, ranging from business to cybersecurity to healthcare and more. They offer associates, bachelor's, master's, and even a doctorate program, so no matter where you are in your higher education journey, you can pick it up and continue with them. And the best part is that they are 100% online. That means if you're a busy person like I am with family, school, work, and other obligations, there's no need for you to leave the comfort of your own home to drive and go sit in a classroom for hours and drive back. Take the classes from your couch, from your bed, from the library, or wherever is convenient for you. If you're interested in improving your future through better education, visit columbiasouthern.edu/FFN.
Now the house on fire.
All right, so first thing, I believe this video at the time of making this was shot about a month or so ago. This comes from a volunteer department in southern Louisiana somewhere. I'm not sure exactly what department it is. I'm sure someone will tell me in the comments below. And there were some things that really went wrong on this fire, and I wanted to address them. Now, as always, I never want to try and Monday morning quarterback or make it a point to make fun of or pick on people, but there's some serious issues with this. The first one is you saw that guy come barreling through there and stop right in front of the structure. Do not park right in front of a structure, whether you're a civilian or whether you're a volunteer firefighter. That's the place for engines and apparatus and for command to set up so that they have a good view of everything, not for you to just park your vehicle. The next thing is you see here the engine is still a little ways away from the fire. Now they'll move and they'll pull up. I think they're going to try and do some sort of forward lay, but it's important that when the first due engine shows up on scene, they go past the structure, or at least a little bit. The reason being you want to see three sides of the structure. The side of the structure you're approaching from, the front of the structure, and the far side of the structure. You'll see later on in this video, one of the exposures caught fire, and I think that if they would have done that, they would have noticed how bad the fire was on the far side of this building and the fact that it caught the other structure on fire. Now, finally, as with all of these videos, just a real basic generic size up, a couple things to keep in mind. You'll see when the guy doing the video gets a little bit closer, you will see there is a ton of stuff in this yard, just random stuff. It almost looks kind of like a scrap yard. Now, if you're new to firefighting, one thing you should be aware of whenever you see a yard or a house that's in disarray like that, especially outside, usually the inside is worse. Now, I'm not saying this was a hoarder house. I have no idea, but every time I've been in a place where the outside is just a mess and there's junk everywhere, the inside's just as bad. So just know that going into it, because that could present some very serious dangers for you if you're going in there to do an interior fire attack. Next thing, you see some power lines right in front of the house. That's always a little bit of an issue. Later on, they'll bring a ladder truck into play. Just looks like your standard single family, single story residential. Looks like right now, and you'll see a little bit as he gets closer, the fire is mainly in the attic. But again, we'll find out more as we get a little bit closer.
Another house fire. YouTube. You guys about to put that fire out.
All right, so now that he's a little bit closer, we get a better view. We see just how much stuff is in the front yard or side yard of this house. This is going to be an obstacle for you, obviously, as you're pulling a line, so be aware of that. The next thing, it looks like most of this smoke is coming out of the soffits, and from the windows that I can see here, it looks like there's blinds over them so that it's hard to see. But when you see smoke like this, and not always, it generally means that the fire is coming from the attic area. You don't really see any smoke coming out of windows. You can kind of see the front door to the house. You don't really see any smoke coming out of there, but you see quite a bit of smoke coming out from the back of the house, the Charlie Delta corner. That's going to be an indication to you that there might be an opening that's feeding the fire. This house probably isn't sealed up that tightly. This is, again, why it's important that you should pull past the house. If you're pulling past the house, you're able to see that far corner and see what's going on back there. The other thing I want to mention is you see this little ladder right here, right on the side of the house. I don't know if that was put up by the fire department or not. I don't think it was. It wouldn't surprise me because it seems like there's a whole bunch of random stuff in this yard. But if it is, there's no need to put a ladder right there. Again, that might not have been the fire department, but if it was, don't put a ladder right there. It's just going to get in the way at this point.
Back up, please. You don't need to be right here.
Right.
This is not safe. Back up.
All right.
All right, so before we go any further, one thing, that firefighter just told that guy to back up. Some people in the comments in the original video were saying that he was very rude and unfriendly to him. I don't think he was. He asked him to back up. He was very confident about it, forceful about it, whatever you want to say. He was correct in having civilians get away. But my next thing is there's two people standing right there next to that hand line who are not dressed in fire gear. If you are a volunteer firefighter, and you show up to a scene, you better have your turnout gear. You are absolutely useless in your street clothes. You will see here in a little bit that there is no pace from anyone, and the people helping are people in civilian street clothes. If you're a volunteer, go get your turnout gear before you come to the scene. Even if it takes you a few more minutes, that's fine, because there's not a whole lot you're going to be able to do at this point. All right, so at this point, you see this firefighter that just walked into the screen. He's wearing a white helmet. You'll also hear them referred to as white hats. Now, not always, but generally speaking, a white helmet means an officer, usually a chief. Also, his turnout gear looks pretty light. I can't tell if that's white turnout gear. Maybe it's just my eyes or the coloring on the video, but he looks like he's supposed to be in charge. When you are an officer that shows up on scene, make sure you take charge of the scene. Right now, based on what we could tell from this video, still nobody has gone around to the far side of the building to do a 360 size up. If you would have done a 360 at this point, you would see that the fire is probably primarily back in that Charlie Delta corner, and there's an exposure that's getting ready to catch on fire. So it's important that if you are a volunteer and you are in an officer or senior leadership role, make sure somebody has command and is setting up what needs to happen, where you need your resources to go, because it's tough for volunteers. They don't necessarily have as many resources as a lot of the career departments.
What are you doing right there?
So at this point, we're almost 5 minutes into the video, and you see a lot of firefighters just kind of sauntering and walking around, telling people to where to move their cars and doing all of that kind of stuff. The most hustle you see is from people that are not in fire gear. And I'm usually pretty gracious about the fact that it's important to do a thorough evaluation and a scene size up and making sure that you have a good plan of attack and not just running around frantically when you show up on scene. But this is not that. This is really bad. There's not really any hustle from anybody. Nobody really seems like they're in charge, and nobody really seems like they know what they're doing. The most hustle I've seen so far is from people not dressed in fire gear. And again, if you're a volunteer firefighter and you show up on scene, you better have your gear or else you are useless. The other thing I want to point out is that we're about 5 minutes in at this point, and there has still been no water flowing. My guess is, based on when this video started, obviously there was editing done to it and whatnot. The fire was probably 10 minutes, 15 minutes in. I'm not really sure based on the smoke. But now they've been on scene for a while and there's still no water flowing. Remember, as a firefighter, your job is to protect life and property. And the best way to do that is put water on the fire. You need to get water flowing as quickly as you can once you figure out exactly where the seat of the fire is, which goes back to what I said at the very beginning, which is why you need a proper size up and you need to establish where the seat of that fire is as fast as you can.
To the second one.
We're 7 minutes into this video and there has still been no water put on this fire. You can hear the engine, the pump gearing up, but as far as I can tell, there has been no water put on anything. Also, you heard the guy say there's a second one. Now, like I said before, you can't see it yet. there is an exposure, another home on the D side of this house, on the far side, that has now caught on fire. You'll see how bad it is here shortly. This, at this point, is pretty much inexcusable. You have one line in operation. You've been on scene for 7 minutes, no water flowing, and now an exposure has caught fire. This is what happens when there's no real command, nobody taking charge and saying, we need to deploy resources here and here, protect the exposures, and put out the fire. We'll see here a little bit later how badly this fire progresses, but it's certainly not good at this point. Remember, get water on the fire as soon as you can.
Damn, YouTube. There's the second one. Second house on fire. Huh? Here I go. They say there's a team smoke up on the back. Look at that camera.
All right, so at this point, I want you to notice a couple things. Notice the smoke conditions. Over time, since the beginning of the video, if you need to, rewind and go back to the beginning, the smoke has gotten thicker, darker, and heavier. Remember what we've talked about in other videos, conditions for flashover. It needs 3 conditions. It needs fuel. It has plenty of fuel. I'm assuming this house is full of stuff. But even that smoke is dark, it's heavy. That's unburned fuel that can ignite. It needs high heat. Obviously, we can't feel the heat from the video, but my guess is that it's probably pretty hot over by that house. At one point, you hear the guy taking the video saying, man, I can feel the heat from over here. And then it needs free burning fire. At this point, my guess is on that far side of the house where we can't see, there is free burning fire. This fire is getting oxygen from outside somewhere. These are conditions that are ripe for flashover. Now, this video is cut up and kind of edited in certain points, so we can't see exactly when or if that happens, but just know that going on. But again, I've talked about before, here's this guy in this blue helmet. You still see him walking around. This guy should have a pack on and should be getting to work. Somebody else should be orchestrating this fire. This was not good from the top down. You shouldn't have more and more people wandering around, not really sure what they're going, or not really sure what they're doing. They should be in there helping him get water on this fire. All right, so at this point, we are almost 15 minutes into this video, and there has still been no water on the fire on the original house. At this point, they have the ladder truck set up. You'll see it here in a little bit, and they're putting water, it looks like, on the exposure, which is good because that exposure has already caught on fire, so you want to mitigate that the best that you can. But still, this is the point I wanted to really drive home with this video, is you need to find the seat of the fire and put water on it. I know that's redundant, but I can't express how important this is because this is what happens when you don't do that quickly enough. Now you see multiple people standing around in the front. There's really no reason to have that many people standing around in front. Again, you should have one person in charge of this fire. He might need, or she might need, an assistant, somebody else kind of managing incoming units. There hasn't been any mutual aid units that I've seen so far, but there's no reason for this many people to be standing out in the front without packs on, and there's a fire going on that's this bad. You need to be in there. You need to be helping and getting water on the fire.
God.
So you see them down in front of the house with 1 or 2 hand lines. Looks like they're just your basic 1 3/4 hand lines with a combination nozzle, just kind of spraying water on the roof. At this point, with a fire that's this hot and is going this much, those really aren't going to do much. You need a lot of water. You need to be using a 2.5. Set up a ground monitor. You need to do something more than just a couple hand lines. You need a lot of water for a lot of fire. I know that sounds simple, and it is pretty simple. But just standing there, just kind of arbitrarily spraying a little bit of water here and there on the roof is not going to do anything for you.
Oh my God. Boy. He ain't killed. He's on fire.
All right, a couple things I want to point out here. You see this guy right in the middle of the screen. He's in what's called rehab. If you're not familiar with fires or the fire service, after you're done working and it's time for you to rotate out, they will rotate you out. You go take a break, get some water, cool off, do whatever, change out your bottle and get ready to go back in when the next crew comes out to go into rehab. When you're in rehab, get away from the smoke. Go somewhere that you're not downwind. The whole idea of going to rehab and using SCBA packs and all that is to not be inhaling smoke. So if you're recovering, if you're taking a break, get away from the smoke. The other thing I want to point out is that you hear all these SCBA alarms going off in the background. If you're new to the fire service, SCBA stands for self-contained breathing apparatus. That's what you have on your back. Built into those things are what's called a pass device. If you're still for, I think, 20 or 30 seconds, it'll go into a low alarm. And then if you're still not moving for another 10 or 20 seconds, it will go into what's a full alarm. That chirping that you hear in the background is it going into a full alarm. You want to monitor these packs. When you hear that full alarm, that is not something you're supposed to get used to. That means that a firefighter is down and not moving. So when you get used to just kind of an ambient noise of a pass alarm going off in the back and, oh, don't worry about that, that could be a problem in the future if somebody does go down and you don't realize it. You think, oh, well, so-and-so just left their pack on the ground and forgot to turn it off. Make sure you shut those off so that people don't get used to hearing that.
They done bust all their windows. Damn. I was on fire too. 2 hours on fire now. Oh, I see them. Boy, you can't play with nature, boy.
So that's pretty much it for the purposes of this video. These homes, I believe, were a total loss based on the photos at the end. What are some of the highlights from this? Well, number one, it highlights the importance of training. I completely understand, and I have nothing but respect for volunteers because they have a very difficult job. They're doing this on their own time. Generally, they're not getting paid, and there's usually not enough money in the budget for training. But please, if you are a volunteer firefighter, go train, go watch YouTube videos, set up something, go see if you can do some ride time with a career department that has more fires so that you can get exposed to it and so that you can be more competent on scene. The other thing is there needs to be a lot more hustle. Again, I'm generally pretty gracious with fire departments trying to be cautious and set up properly for firefighter safety. But once you already know where the fire is, you need to get moving. People need to know what they're doing and people need to be competent and moving quickly. And then finally, this shows the importance of leadership. You need to have someone on scene, an incident commander that knows what they're doing and is being very decisive about where to deploy their resources. So as always, I hope you found this useful and helpful. If you did, give this video a thumbs up, consider subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.